This talk is about living the Zen. The Indian thought process, you see, the Upanishads says, all that you see does not exist in actuality. It's a kind of an optical illusion, a maya, that you think you are seeing something is an illusion. And now you will be surprised. The quantum physics also says the very same thing. The matter that you study, that you describe and dissect, actually does not exist. Matter and energy are two sides of the same coin. They are not two distinct separate entities. Do you follow this point? So, from here you look, you see a particle, right? From there you look, you see waves and no particle. So, there is no matter distinct from energy, and therefore it's all energy, a vast, omnipotent energy, the universal consciousness, if you want to call it so, or divine, or God, if you want to call it so, right? So, there is this universal consciousness, and we humans are the individual consciousness, a small bit of that same material, right? Do you follow this point? And in our country, in this land, Sri Aurobindo and Sri Mata of Auroville, Pondicherry, lived their life just expressing that divine, and they taught people to live, to express the divine in us. All the rest of the things in life is ignorance and valueless, right? And one great soul of this land, Sri Ramana Maharshi of Tiruvannamalai, lived and proved the essence of Vedanta of the Upanishads. And many people are alive today who have seen him in flesh and blood, right? The trouble is, you can't live that kind of life. It is impossible for us, right? Now, Buddhism has lots of similarities with this philosophical thinking, and its foundation is also very deep, accurate, and unquestionably true. And look, for example, Buddhism says humans have a habitual tendency, a conditioning of the mind, to see parts of a reality and miss the whole picture. Do you follow this point? For example, we see separate individual trees and we miss the forest. Do you follow this? You will not see the forest, you will see only individual trees. That's right, fine. We are humans. That's it. That is how we are made. Probably a manufactured defect. And now here comes the Zen, you say, to serve you. It says, don't worry about the universal consciousness and all that deep, the evasive, the metaphysical knowledge. Now, simply live the life of that enlightened person, the Buddha, and express in your body, in your emotion, in your thinking, that Buddha nature. Right? See what happens then. Look, here is an example. Buddhism says, you see the water in the pond, keep seeing the water only, then eventually you will see the fish also. Don't look at the individual fish. That's the way to see a fish. Do you follow this point? Fish and water are not two distinctly different entities. Do you know? One depends on the other. In the rainy season, the sperm and ova of the fishes fall into water. They fuse in the water, and those small cells, they eat the water, they drink the water and breathe the water, and over a time they take the form of a fish. The body and that shape later on appears. So, the fish and water are not two separate entities. So, one depends on the other, and one is the same as the other, except that at some point of time the fish grows and takes a body shape, and again it loses it and becomes water again. That's it. Do you follow this point? So also, when you see a lotus, you may see the lotus, or you may see the elements from which a lotus is made of. See, an invisible bud of lotus lies inside the water. With the arrival of morning sun and the sunshine, there is a spurt of activity in the bud, the photosynthesis. A lot of energy is created now by the interactions of the elements of mud, air and water. Now in the bud, some new proteins are manufactured. They are arranged one above the other, like you lay bricks one above the other to build a wall. A lotus petal is built, and these lotus petal proteins are some special proteins. They absorb certain colors and they reflect certain other colors of light, and therefore you get a colored lotus petal now, the red, the blue and so on. So, now you have two ways of seeing a lotus. Either you see the raw materials of lotus, the mud, the water and the sunshine, or you see only the visible lotus. It depends on the onlooker, right? Now, therefore, what we do in Zen is, we don't go into the dissection and vivisection and all that of that deep philosophical understanding of those Buddha's teachings, but we live the Buddha's life. We live the Buddha's life. Do you follow that? We simply go on expressing the Buddha nature that is there inside us. We act like Buddha. We sit, we walk, we work, we eat like the Buddha. But we are not Buddhas, we know. But that is not our concern at all. Our practice is such. We have a strong faith in that teaching that says we are all bestowed with that Buddha nature, all of us. Finish. We have an inborn, innate nature, that is Buddha nature, and we have a faith, a confidence in that practice. This way, we think this way, and eventually we become that. It works, my friends. Don't be surprised. The brain is like that. Brain is malleable. It is always subject to change and transformation. Right? Say, for example, You play a trick on someone. You meet a person, tell him he is looking sick, and he denies that because he is not sick. Fine. But next day again, you meet him and say the same thing, and ask a couple of your friends to do the same trick on him, and wait. After a few days, he will now behave like a sick person, and he is not sick. This is the basis of our practice. It is a kind of a reverse technology. And say in some African tribes, there is a culture. If someone does a wrong behavior, an immoral behavior, a shameful act, they don't punish him. They all circle around him and keep telling him about all the good behaviors he has shown earlier, all his good deeds and all his virtues. Each one tells him his own experience with him of some good interactions with him, and it goes on. Eventually, that man becomes all right, and he takes the right moral path. It works, my dear friends. You think, as you sow, you reap, isn't it? It is what you think is what you are. You see, that famous French philosopher René Descartes made that famous statement, which is quoted most often. That is, I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. But he erred there, and we call it Descartes' error. The thinking should be always supported by the gut feelings, equal amounts of emotions and thoughts. If there is no emotional part and only pure 100% reasoning and logical thinking and all that, that person is bound to make colossal mistakes in his life. Descartes did not believe in this emotional part at all, and that was the error. So, it is also true that what you feel is what you are, like what you think is what you are. Now, in Zen, we take into account both these faculties. So, this is what we do in Zen. We begin with 100% faith in the teaching, that we start living that with all our thoughts, with all our emotions, with full life spirit. Right? Do you follow this point? Then what next? Next is, it is up to you to walk the path. So, now so many patriarchs after patriarchs have lived, and they have shown the concrete evidence that it is workable. You walk on the path, simple, and anybody can do it. Right? Anybody can do that before your own eyes. Now, you have seen, we have all seen that revered Thich Nhat Hanh of Plum Village, France, who lived a beautiful, meaningful, noble life. So, you see those Zen centers, and finally, look here, we can't do all that what Japanese and Western people have done. We have to look into our cultural background and build our own appropriate Sangha, our Zen group. Right? So, for example, you say, we have a culture. When we bow, do that pranam, prostration, namaskar, we automatically get the feeling that I am a small being in this ocean, divine, the super is a bigger power, and so on. We easily lie down flat and we dissolve our ego and we become humble. This is our culture. So, we can make use of such cultural values and build our own Indian version of Zen Sangha. Now, to sum up, Our very practice is the expression of the teaching that we all have inside, a peaceful, a calm, a true nature. And you will be the practice, you will be the enlightenment. You will not go to get enlightenment, you will not go to do some practice, you are the practice. That's it, right? So, that is the crux of the practice, my dear people, friends. So, we will finish there. Thank you. Thank you.